Holy shit, we're back with another episode of World 1-1 Podcast, where we are again asking the ever-important question, what else can we fuck up today? Real quick tease for the third half of the show. God damn it, I did this again. I did this last time, and I've done it again, except now my shit's in a new place, because new computer! Ha-ha! Oh, let's see here. Quick tease, third half of the show. What did we save for this week? Here we go. Oh God, it was you and me. No, you were.
It was on this one.
Yeah. So stick around for the third half of the show. That's the most exciting time-wasting segment I've ever pulled off in my life. God damn! Somebody give me an award for that. LeGrew and I, we are talking about the potential of a second industry crash. It's a fucking good one. So stick around for the third half. As always, you can and should gently caress, give it the little two-finger treatment, make that subscribe and share button happy. It's good practice. I'm telling you. So, also in the show notes, there's a link to our Discord where you should absolutely jump in and come share your thoughts with us. Whatever it is, tell us what you've been playing this week. Tell us what you think about, this week's deep dive topic, any of it. Let's get into it, but get in the Discord and come talk with us. Quick shout out to our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors, helping you up your scent game with fragrances for guys, gals, and non-binary pals. More about them just before the break. All that out of the way. I am, as always, your host, Roll to the Wall. Joining me this week is my co-pilot, compatriot, Josh the LeGrew.
Yo.
All right, let's get to the meat and taters. Oh my God, video games. It's been a hot minute since you and I have gotten to fucking sit down. What have you been playing? Talk to me. Tell me good stuff.
So from what I was playing last time to what I'm playing now, not much has changed. I can't even remember the last time what I was playing, to be honest with you. But I did put in I got a PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay. And I started that. So I'm only like 4 hours into it, which is not much for that game. The game's I think it's about a 60-hour game for me, just the way I play. Mm-hmm. I'm liking it. Liking on the PS5. It's better, faster, stronger, better. We have the technology, basically.
Right.
And that's where I'm at with that. Is there any questions? I mean, I haven't really played too much because I've been really heavily at my other job, but that's what I've been sinking my time into when I can.
Okay, I'm really curious because I know things because Michael's talked about it a lot. I don't remember how much you've been on for some of those recordings and how much we've had like missed connections here. Throwback to fucking Craigslist days of personal ads.
Right.
But how much do you know about what they've done with the story here?
So I played the whole game.
Okay.
On my PS4.
This is a second run through.
Second run through because I'm kind of preparing myself for Rebirth, which I really want to play, but I want to play Final Fantasy again, and I thought, well, I'll play it on my PS5 because the last time I played it was PS4. Mm-hmm. So I said, let's play it on PS5. I got it for a good price on Amazon, and I thought, I got it physically on Amazon, and I'll play it. And it has the Integrate DLC, which is the DLC that happens after the game, where you meet Yuffie and all that, which it's not like in the original game, it's not as important. It seems to be here. It's not as important either because it's extra, but it goes into Rebirth. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I wanted to, instead of buying just the DLC, I just thought, let's just buy the whole game, basically the same price.
Yeah.
And I got it on Amazon for the same price. I said, well, I'm just going to replay this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm curious here. What's your take? What's your feel on the Final Fantasy remake? And I know you haven't played Rebirth yet, but kind of knowing what's going on with the roadmap for this entire fucking project, do you view each of these games as a full game or as an episode? Because we really haven't seen a lot of like episodic gaming content in a while. Like
No.
that was real big for a hot minute, and then it mostly just vanished.
Well, I mean, if episodic you mean by 60 hours a piece, okay. But what I think with this is like, this is the first part of this journey. If you played the original, it was basically 3 separate parts. It was the beginning, then you got to the overworld, and then the end game.
Yeah.
So the first game is the beginning up until you get basically to the overworld. It kind of opens up a little bit. From what I've heard about Rebirth, it kind of opens up a little bit. It's almost like a different game in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that as long as
Rebirth had a different development team than Remake.
But also you have to understand that in the original game, that's when it did open up. Like after you got out of the city, it opened up. So I'm okay with that as long as like in the third game, they pull it back again. And that's probably what they're going to do. But I really want to just see, I view these as 3 parts to one saga, basically, trilogy.
Right.
It's almost like Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Yes, they're independent, but together they just make it better.
Right. And that's kind of what I think you may have just hit closer to what I was trying to ask. Like, do each of these feel like a full, complete game?
I mean, for now, the first game, like I completed it, felt like a full, complete game, and I was excited to see what was next because being a fan of the original, I kind of knew what was next. And like, I think it was like 97 when it came out. I remember taking a whole week off of school because I was sick, quote unquote, to play that. So that was kind of where I was back then. It's kind of where I'm at now. I'm like, wow, this is like when I started playing this, I'm like, this is really good. And I was showing my wife, I'm like, and she's not a gamer that much, but she knows some things. I think everybody knows Final Fantasy VII, even if you're not a gamer. If you're in that world or a gamer, Final Fantasy VII. So even she's like, oh, does this happen? I'm like, yes, watch. I'm like, and she was watching for a while. She's like, it's boring. I'm like, I get it. It's boring to watch because you're not interacting with it. But the game itself is fantastic. I like the way it works. It's pushing you to the ultimate conclusion of pushing you out of the city. And that's good.
You absolutely just reminded me of something. I'm curious if you've ever seen this. Have you ever seen girlfriend reviews on YouTube?
No.
I honestly think you should absolutely check this out and show it to Mel, because it's literally this dude's girlfriend reviews games that he's been playing, but
and
reviewing it from the point, but reviewing it from the point of, should your boyfriend play X game because you're going to be stuck watching it? Is it fun to sit back and watch?
That's interesting.
I'm like, there's a neat fucking angle. I'm here for this. So check out girlfriend reviews. That's I will. Thing. Because that'll, if nothing else, that'll give you maybe some direction on some things that are fun to play,
to watch.
Right. Makes the experience a little better
for sure.
So adds some, lubricates the bonding component, if you will.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Even after all these years, like Mel
it's definitely gonna lube it up good.
Mel does like to watch me play games, but then she also likes not to watch me play games. There's this like very fine line of where the game becomes like, oh, okay. And she'll always come in on the part that's like the worst part to come in on, And she's like, oh, I see why you're watching this. Like basically porn. I'm like, no, I'm just watching this. I'm like, it just happened,
So this is going to sound real weird, but I promise there's a through line here.
Sure.
But I'm curious. I suspect I know the answer, but we talked about it. Did you get out to your comic book shop?
No.
Oh, sad face.
But tomorrow that's the goal, because I'm off tomorrow. It's Friday. I get paid, so I got some extra cash. So it actually is a plan in the works. So
Yeah, we're going on Sunday, and I'm excited because the first issue of White Boat is out, which is the newest series from Distillery that's starting maritime horror this time. So
nice.
But the reason I ask is because the pillowcase thing that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
it clicked in my head. I'm like, the old Metroid manga is like nigh impossible to get a hold of. You can read it online, translated even. God bless Metroid database, because they actually have like scans of the entire Metroid manga, and then they have it translated into English because it was never printed in English.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking, because I've been reading, but anybody listening doesn't, because I haven't really talked about it. I've been reading a ton of stuff, like everything from this new comic book publisher called Distillery. And they do awesome work. Like, all their stories are only 3 issues long, in, out, and done. But they're not the usual comic book format where it's maybe like 20 or 30 pages to a book. And they're bigger. They're more like the 10 by 11 format.
Yeah.
And so they're usually like a good 50 to 70 pages of an issue. And I saw that and I'm like, I would love to see Distillery get the rights to do like a 3-issue Samus origin story. Like what they did, just a retelling of the story that was in the old manga. It's like, man, they would do really fucking cool work with that.
Right.
So I'm sitting here thinking about like who I would want to see do the writing, do the art. But if Distillery was the one doing it, 100% blind buy, because these guys are batting 1,000 with everything. So, but anyways, but yeah, that's, like I said, there was a through line there somewhere, because I'm just like,
yes.
that would be really fucking neat. But the other one, another one I would love to see them do, and here's the rest of the through line, is what I've been playing. I've been playing Animal Well. And holy shit, I have not played a game, and I told Riker this, I have not played a game that oozed atmosphere like this in ages. Like, this thing oozes atmosphere the way Super Metroid oozes it.
Yeah, it's a good game.
That's a high fucking mark. And I'm trying to think if there's really been a game that's oozed that kind of feel since Super Metroid until now. I think the only other one that really got close to that for me was maybe Haiku.
Okay.
And even then, Haiku didn't ooze it the same way, but it definitely oozed it. But yeah, this whole thing is so wild. Like, there's all sorts of useless, quirky shit in it. I was telling Michael about this the other day. So on the PC, you can use your mouse. If you're playing it on PS5, you can use the touchpad on the controller. If you're playing it on Switch, you can use the touch screen on the tablet part in handheld mode.
Yeah.
And you can sit there and fuck with and make like the hanging lamps and the hanging vines like sway and swish by touching them. It's completely useless, but I'm like, little fucking things. This game has so much of those little fucking things that are just coherent. Yeah, the other tricky part is talking about it without spoiling anything. Oh my god, there is so much fucking magic in this. It's just, I'm going to talk about one, and only one, just to give an example, because I need an example of this shit. it's a knowledge-based unlock game. It's a K-bug, like Tunic, like The Witness, like Outer Wilds. So it's one of those things where it gives you tools, but it's up to you to learn how to use those tools, to figure out how to and what those tools can do. So there's not a whole lot of items to pick up and get in Animal Well. There's only a few, but it does a lot with a little. Like every item basically has more than one use or function, but it doesn't tell you that. You'll figure out the obvious one, and you'll usually stumble into figuring out the not obvious ones.
Sure.
Like there's an item in the game. It's a disc. It's a frisbee. But I'm like, cool, obvious use. I can use it to throw and hit fucking switches I can't reach on the other side of the room or through tight spots. I've been doing that. I'd even kind of, gotten into some advanced techniques of that, like setting it up to where it's bouncing back and forth, hitting a set of switches to make them alternate on and off while you run around and do something else, that kind of thing. What didn't even occur to me until I did it by pure fucking accident is if you throw the frisbee, you can jump on the frisbee and ride it.
Nice.
Didn't fucking dawn on me. I'm in a pinch situation and I threw the frisbee and I was jumping to try and get out of the way, and it took my brain a second to catch up and go, where the fuck did my character? Oh, he's riding the frisbee. I can do that? And then all this other shit starts clicking, going, holy shit, now I know how to do this and this and that. So it takes kind of that Metroid formula, but then stacks that extra layer of excitement on it, because you'll see things, make that mental note, there's something I need, and when I find it, I'll know to come back here. But then the game will hand you the thing you need, but it's not immediately obvious that that was what you fucking needed. But when it does finally click, it's that exponentially bigger aha moment than, you saw a half pipe and you got the morph ball and you're like, oh, go back to, I've got the thing.
Right. I got it. Yeah.
This stacks an extra layer on top of that of fucking light bulb happy moment.
I've heard this a lot about this game, and so it makes me really wonder. Obviously made by one dude.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how long it took him yet. I haven't researched it much, but it took him
I would
obviously
imagine a few years.
A long time. But the thing is, he executed his vision,
mm-hmm.
and that's awesome. If that's the way he wanted it to go, that's great.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And
isn't this coming out on a limited run for physical?
Yeah, limited run is doing physicals in a standard and a collector's edition.
Okay.
So, but in any case, where was I going with this? I was going somewhere.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. It'll come back. Oh, so yeah. So like Outer Wilds, like Tunic.
Yeah.
It's all about obtaining information, because once you have the information, you realize how much the answer was right in front of you the whole time. And to the point where you could start the game and you now immediately know how to finish it and can finish it within a few minutes, because nothing was stopping you except your lack of knowledge.
Okay.
And as a result, the speedrun community has been having a field day. Speedrunners have got it down to under 5 minutes, and they're closing in on 4.5.
Right.
And that's kind of the nature of a K-bug. a broader example to a much lesser extent would be like Breath of the Wild, where you start the game and as soon as you're off the plateau, you can run straight to the fucking end game if you wanted to. Nothing is stopping.
No, nothing.
And you can absolutely do it. K-Bugs are the same way. The difference is you don't know where the castle is until you get the information. But the castle has always been right there in front of you. You just didn't recognize it as such because nobody taught you yet. So, and apparently the layers go so deep that even the save file that you select out of the 3 slots makes a difference.
I heard about that.
I don't know the specifics yet, but I know that it's a thing.
I did hear about that the saved slots, each one is a different thing.
Yeah. So I'm super, like, that's a brilliant way to push replayability. Aside from the fact that there's already supposed to be like secrets upon secrets that he's expecting people to take years to find all of them.
Right.
Which just makes me so profoundly happy inside.
Yeah, that's great.
This is everything I love about this kind of shit. And it's killing me because I want to like soak it in, but I'm refusing to look at basically anything until I've finished the first run of the game. Then I'm going to start poking at a few things so that I have maybe some more loose threads to pull on to find more of those other secrets on my own without being directed to them.
Right.
Like, I love K-Bugs, and I've got a few started that I have not finished yet, ashamedly, including Outer Wilds and Tunic. But I know what they are, and they're ones that I've started, and Tunic just kind of got put to the side for really weird reasons, actually. And then Outer Wilds, I told you my plan is, because I started it a couple of months ago, and once I got a feel for it, I'm like, okay, we're stopping this now, and I am saving it until summer break is a thing, basically. I'm going to start hooking it up to the projector out on the back porch and saving it for playing exclusively at nighttime by the fire, because it totally has that like campfire redneck astronaut feel going on, including the whole like summer night backyard crickets fireflies vibe even.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I want to further steep myself in that.
Sure.
That kind of goes back to the whole thing that Wes and I talked about completely by accident, actually, was, where do you play your games? And originally that conversation started as, how do you decide what platform you're buying your games on to play on when they're available on multiples? But it turned into, no, physically, where do you play your games? And so that episode's out there a few weeks back. You should totally go give it like, this kind of just recontextualizes that a little bit, or adds some example here. But yeah, no, that specific game I want to play on the back porch during summer nights by the fire and hearing the crickets and shit, because it just adds to the ambiance of that game. It's like pairing a fine wine with a great steak. By themselves, they're both great. Together, they are divine. But that's what I've been playing, is a lot of Animal Well, and then coming up is going to be Hellblade 2, which I've been waiting years for, and anybody that's listened to our nonsense for any length of time, you'll hear that come up recurringly. But it's finally fucking here, and I can get thumbs on with it, and I am so ready to just dive in and just lose myself for a few hours. I am absolutely fascinated by the prospect of seeing Senua progress in terms of living with her condition.
Right. Correct.
So.
Me too.
But yeah. That and a little Balatro is still in the mix. Like I said, it's a great bedtime game. Oh my God, it's a great bedtime game. It has all the, again, where do you play your games? Holy shit, this is completely unintentional. But yeah,
right.
Go me for the interlace here, for the callback. But it's such a great bedtime game. It's just got the super chill vibe.
Right. So
the
winding
whole,
down.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not whipping you up.
Everything about that gives the right vibes. Like the music, the default volume on the music is very low. It's solidly audible, but it's low, and what is there is very laid back.
They know that that's what people are playing it, and kind of wind down for the night, because it's not like Doom Eternal,
Yeah.
Like gonna like start playing rock music and metal and getting you to kill things, The
other thing too is, and even if I'm not playing it like at bedtime for a wind down, if I'm like just sitting after work and playing for an hour because I wanted to play something actively and attentively, and I was playing Balatro, I don't do this, but I know that there are a lot that do, and it was something that Mark Brown over on Game Maker's Toolkit talked about not long after, within a few weeks of Balatro releasing, is that he talks about the unsolvable design flaw in Balatro, which is that despite wanting to convey the feeling of excitement of not being for sure if the hand that you're playing is going to score you enough points or not, you can math it out. All the information is there. You can run the numbers before you hit play to know if you're going to get what you need or not. But the developer said that he doesn't want people to do that. He wants the excitement of making an educated guess and then seeing if it plays out right or not. And so doing this kind of thing at bedtime, where you're winding down, you stop, even if you are that kind of person that does run the numbers and checks the math and like plays it hardcore basically. Bedtime, you don't do that. You're winding down. You just kind of go with the feel of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what I've been spending here lately. I think that means it's a great time for a quick, lovely word about our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors, just before we jump to the break, and then we'll get into the third half of the show. So, if you have not yet, absolutely should go hit the link in the show notes and check out Imaginary Authors, because they are helping you up your scent game with their fragrances for guys, gals, and non-binary pals, including one of their newest ones. My sample trial size came in the mail this week, and I like it. I'm impressed. This to me is a great like daytime scent. It's very clean. It's light. It's called Languages of Glaciers, or the language of a glacier, and some of the notes in there, white pine and lilac and cashmere and juniper. It doesn't have a super floral scent. They're all real light, but the one that really caught my attention in the notes at the very end, virgin snowfall. I don't know how somebody fucking figured out what the hell virgin snowfall smells like, but I can tell you that they fucking did.
This is it.
I'm like, no, that is actually that. Jesus, color me impressed. But it's light, it's clean. I'm digging it. It's absolutely going in my fragrance rotation on an ongoing basis at this point. I'm impressed. So go check them out. Link in the show notes. Hit them up. Imaginary Authors. All that, now that we've got it covered, I think it's a great time for us to go get ready for the third half of the show right after the break. And we're back with the third half of the show. This week, we're taking a dive down the warp pipe, and we're asking the very important question: is the gaming industry heading towards a second industry crash? Now, I know a lot of us have lived through the original industry crash. Some of us were coming into it, like myself, just as that was ending as the industry was recovering and finding its footing again.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure we can all agree, I don't think we want to go through that again. But then again, maybe, just maybe, it's not the worst thing. So let's dive in. Joining me for this conversation is my co-pilot, Legru.
Yo.
So you and I started talking about this a little bit earlier today.
We did.
So let's dive in, because I think there's some good meat on the bones here. Because, like I said, I don't think we want to watch the industry crash and burn. But then again, maybe it's time we hit a reset. This might not be all bad.
No, and when you look at it, I don't know if it's bad per se. I think it might be more of a contraction than a reset. So the industry maybe
call it
got
a contraction. I think we're heading towards a reckoning.
Well, it got too big. It got too big where it's starting to lump in a lot of people that don't actually support the industry like maybe you and I do. And maybe that's kind of where we're at right now. So the way I look at it, when they say like 100 million gamers, like, no, not really. Like, you have X amount of people who play games regularly. And then you have X amount of people who play games on mobile and all that. Those aren't the people, I think, that push the industry forward. They're the people that will kind of, go with the flow. So if this game is big and they might play it. However, the people like you and I think really push the industry forward. We really say, oh, we want to try that. And I think that group has it's been about the same in total, because they'll say something like 2 billion gamers on the planet. It's about 100 million people that actually play games all the time on console, on game, and they just kind of float around. And I think maybe we're kind of at that point where maybe that grew a little bit, especially because of COVID and all that, where people were a little bigger and these companies scaled up, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, we can't actually support that. And so they're pulling it back a little bit, which means a little bit of a contraction on the business side. And I think gamers feel that, a lot of gamers are creative people, and they feel like, oh, well, these trillion-dollar corporations are cutting people. Why? Well, they're trying to stay somewhat net neutral or positive. They're not always in that realm of, I'm going to make, spend $100, I'm going to get $150 back. They want to spend $100 and get $1,000 back. And I think that that's a reality that gamers have to kind of accept with these big corporations. Now, we get into, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but we'll get into the indie scene where those people don't need that outcome. And so they may be totally happy with, spending $100, getting $125 back in that. And so that's that might be a whole nother conversation.
Oh, no, that's exactly where I'm going.
That's
with this
where we're
conversation.
going. So let's do it.
So I think you and I might be on a slightly different track, but I think those tracks run at least parallel, if not merge at some point here. So what I was thinking about and looking at when I threw this topic on the list earlier was that, we just saw, so this will kind of date stamp this recording a little bit, because we record these the deep dives anyways, ahead of time. roll them out in a couple of weeks. But we just had the announcements of another couple studio closures, including, was it Arcane?
Yeah, Arcane Austin.
Yeah, Arcane Austin, Arcane whatever. And shit, what was the
Tango
other one that
Gameworks.
just
Tango
That's
Gameworks.
it. Thank you.
Yep.
And so here we're dealing with Arcane Austin is a little bit of a complicated one just because of Redfall.
Yeah.
And that's technically kind of dicey, choppy waters. But you've also got Tango that just recently put out Hi-Fi Rush in the last 12 months that did well.
Yeah.
You know,
and
well
it's been ported
received.
to other platforms.
Right. Like it's going places. It's still making more money because it's stepping onto new platforms. And like you were saying, they don't want to, the publishers don't want to make some money, some profit. They want to make all the money, all the profit.
Right.
Problem is that's not a sustainable business model.
No.
There is a finite amount of money in circulation, period. And they seem to assume that it just magically multiplies every time they fucking want it to, and then get pissy and whiny when it doesn't. And the more and more I sit and stew on it, and every time this shit happens, I just sit here and I go, you know, if you would stop fucking spending as much, if not more, on the marketing than you did on development. You are already creating an unattainable financial goal for yourself to surpass. And then you're going to cry about it when you fucking don't. Like, I'm sorry, you kind of made your own fucking problem here. The follow-up problem to that is the fact that when that shit happens, they're not the ones that eat it. It's the developers that end up eating it and paying the price for that cock up. It's dumb. Whereas, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, you know, if start scaling back a little bit. You have a huge studios for a lot of these publishers where you could be divvying them up, tasking them on a larger number of smaller scale games that don't have to be quite as polished, quite as high end, and sure as hell don't have to be as expensive. And they may not have the same financial draw or potential, but make it up in quantity. Give me half a dozen smaller games that turn a 20% profit on their dev cost, as opposed to one game that might turn 100% profit, maybe.
Right.
And on top of that, not having to blow out the marketing budget and making that even worse. Additionally, part of the problem too is when they do that, they're gambling so hard that they're trying to make a game that appeals to everyone, and then ends up not being fun for anyone, and then just create their own fucking problem. If you make some more stuff that targets a more dedicated niche audience, that audience, knowing that this is for them, is way more likely to turn up and buy and get you your money back and turn your profit. That's the smarter business model, because at that point, recoup your cost, make some profit, make the next game, repeat the process. You'll make your money slower, but more consistently, more there's less gamble involved, and it's just more reliable that way.
Yeah, you're playing the long game, which and
none of them want to do anymore.
No, and they don't, because we're in this portion of businesses that have to create profit over months and years over and over again. Unfortunately, it's not sustainable. There is going to be a period of, reconciliation where they come together and they do contract. And I think we're in that period right now. We're literally in the beginnings of it. I think it's going to contract quite a bit more, where we may see people, and the problem with the contraction, here's the real problem with it. It not only creates the people like you don't want to have. So, for example, like it creates people that don't have jobs, but it also creates conglomerates that are huge. And we were in that consolidation period with Microsoft, with Sony. Everyone's consolidating into bigger corporations to save themselves. And now the bigger corporations are saying, oh, you're not producing. You're a drag on me, and I'm going to cut you loose. So, yes, that could create another period where the indie developer becomes even better. But I'm going to say it's going to wash a lot of people just out of the system in general, where
probably
they're not going to ever get a business. They're going to go to work in another industry because they're never going to come back to the gaming industry.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't have the amount of people employed that it used to have. Now there are always going to be those AAA studios that have tons of people employed, but for how long? Well, so once they're done with their game, that's the thing we got to look at now.
Yeah, and again, the big publishers and studios, and I point the finger more at publishers because that's where the bean counters really come into play here.
Of course.
Is that they're going to keep doing this thing where they push and squeeze and grind their devs to crank out these games, these massive games that are successful, that do turn a profit, do review well, are good, and everybody likes. But the reward at the end of the rainbow is a fucking pink slip. You're going to have a real hard time attracting anybody or even convincing anybody to come fucking work for you when you think you're at a point where it's time to expand again and you need people, and everybody's going to look at your track record and go, eat a dick.
Right.
And the people that do still want to be in and stay in this industry, when this shit happens, they're headed off. They're getting together with their buddies that they all worked with, and they're making their garage studios, and they're turning out their passion projects, their dream games, their actual individual creative endeavors.
Right.
And the AAA publishers are going to be left languishing. And frankly, I think it's about time. Like, sorry, this is your comeuppance for your unbridled greed.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't think so.
I sympathize and I hurt for, and it sucks the people that are getting caught in the backwash here, and in the short to maybe even midterm.
Yeah, short to midterm.
Sucks.
Yep.
But
I mean, it really does suck. It does suck, and I do feel though it's coming, and it's happening already. It's happening slowly.
And don't get me wrong. Yeah, and don't get me wrong too. That just kind of mirrors and parallels what's going on economically all over the fucking place. Not just our industry here, but success is being rewarded with punishment.
Right.
And this is just one microcosm of that larger picture, but it's one that the pace of everything seems to be even more accelerated, which really kind of boggles me as to why more economists don't pay attention to what's happening in the gaming industry.
Well,
and go,
because it's a toy.
Warning flags.
Yeah. It's a toy. And I would look
It
at the
is,
gaming
but
industry as like something that it's really like the canary in the coal mine, because that is
Mhm.
people's discretionary income. If they don't have it, they're not going to spend it. And if it's already happening here, it's going to ripple effect through everything.
Oh yeah. And I can speak to the whole canary in the coal mine thing. I live in an area where we have the economic, like the nationwide economic canary in the coal mine in my area, because I'm over here in South Bend in Indiana, and one city over is Elkhart, which is like the RV capital of the world. The RV industry is the nationwide economic canary in the coal mine. When things start turning and going south, the RV industry is the first one to fucking feel it. When
Right.
things start turning around, the RV industry is the first thing that starts coming back. And gaming may have just started becoming the second canary in the coal mine. Like, you can look at those two probably in parallel.
Yeah.
I'd be real interested to see how that plays out in the next 50 to 70 years on a more long-term format, to see how those line up or not. But yeah, it's just like I said, this whole punishing success is absolutely ridiculous. And like I said, I think we may be headed for that second crash, but I don't think it's going to take the same shape as it did in the 80s.
No, no, and not at all, especially because of the connected world we live in. It's
Yeah.
going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be like, oh, video games are going to go away. It's
Right.
going, because they literally could have went away in the 80s. And I don't think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people would have cared.
No, and it almost did.
Yeah, yeah. If
Got
it
real
wasn't for
close to that.
Nintendo
Mm-hmm.
was the only company that pulled it forward.
Yeah.
By the NES. If they didn't make the NES, it was over.
Well, not just that, but it was in how they marketed it too.
Right, right. And they had the Nintendo seal of quality. They had all this stuff that was like, it might have been bullshit, but everyone agreed that it was good,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And
Sometimes you got to dress
today
it a little differently to get people to see it.
right. And today we don't really have that. It is going to contract. I know that. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's already happening. But is it going to contract to the point where we're going to even notice it?
I think we're already noticing it, for one. It's why these stories keep making the news month over month as it happens.
Right.
But I don't think we're going to see the net result of it for another 3 to 7 years, maybe,
Right.
because as these closures happen, as these layoffs keep happening, it's going to take time for the people that are being tossed out by the corporations to figure out how to land on their feet, reach out, make the right network connections, and piece together new small studios to start making those smaller games that are lower budget, more creative, more
Right.
passion filled.
Right.
And that passion and that creativity is what's really going to bring in the dollars for them. So it's just going to be one of those things. We're seeing the beginning of that cycle, and like I said, in the next half decade on an average is when we'll start seeing the fruits of the culling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much as it, sucks to see it happen and see the people going through it. And I don't mean to say that or sound like I'm saying that in a dismissive way. I'm not.
Right.
But the 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 branches are being trimmed and culled, and the stupid thing is that it's the trees that are doing it to themselves at this point. It's not
Right.
even the farmer coming along looking after them for the health of his farm at this point. The trees are fucking doing it to themselves.
Right.
It's just like, okay, You do you, and when you fucking fall on your face, I'll be over here with the saplings that
Yeah.
walked away and planted themselves and are bearing far richer fruit.
Yeah, I think it's
And
a
then
good
you can
place
whine and cry about it.
right. I think it's a good place to leave it, and then we will definitely revisit it.
Yeah. So, but that's I think the conclusion here is the contraction, the reckoning is coming, and this will be the second great industry crash, but it will be its own unique beast.
Of course.
And we will this industry will come out better and stronger for it, and we as the gaming consuming population will absolutely get to reap the rewards of it. Like I'm here for, and I'm excited to see what what all these people do once they get to make what they want, what they
Yeah.
care about,
Yep.
instead of just being cogs in the fucking machine.
I get it.
So that kind of thing, we've seen this more and more over the last 10 to 20 years of people breaking away on their own, of their own volition, from these big companies and turning out amazing stuff. And now the companies are just doing it to themselves.
Yeah.
They're creating their own competition.
Yep.
But like you said, I think that's a good place to leave it. A good wrap for all of this. So as we head out for the week, I want to say thank you to my compatriot for coming and hanging out with me this week. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors, helping you up your scent game with fragrances for guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Don't forget, subscribe and share with all the people that actually care. And hit that Discord link in the show notes. Come jump in and tell us what you think. Are we on the money? Have we missed something vital here? Let us know. Jump in the Discord. Fucking tell us about it. Other than that, that's a wrap. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night.
You've been tuned to the World 1-1 podcast, powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network. Press start to engage your mind. Peace.